Okay, the time is 9:30. I'll call the September 10th meeting of the Millcreek Board of Supervisors to order. If you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As a reminder to everyone here in the meeting room, this meeting is being recorded, both video and audio, by WQLN, and will be broadcast on Spectrum and YouTube.com channels, and closed captioning will be available on both of those networks. Moving on to item number 3, public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Do we have any public comment? Being none, we'll make note of that in the record. Item number 4, approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. Any questions, comments, additions, or corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 27th meeting minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 5 is approval of the bills. Any questions? Of course, there was a batch that was sent out to us today. Any questions or comments? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the bills.
Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Moving on to item number 6, bids and quotations. The Lester Lawndale Sanitary Sewer Project grinder pumps bid announcement and contract award. And this is from the Planning and Development Engineering Department. Matt Waldinger, it's yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning. David Wright, the Sanitary Sewer Technical Manager, sought bids for companies to provide 8 grinder pumps for use in the Lester Lawndale Sanitary Sewer Project. Bids were opened on August 29th, 2019. There was only one bidder who submitted a bid, Trumbull Equipment Company. Their bid amount was $46,216. Unit prices were $5,666 for 5 E1 model DH071124 pumps and $5,962 for 3 E1 model DH071159 pumps. Mr. Wright recommends awarding the contract to supply the grinder pumps to Trumbull Equipment Company for the total amount of $46,216. This amount will be added to the project cost and be assessed to the property owners benefiting from the extension project.
Okay. Any questions or comments among the board on this? We'll be acting on the purchase too on this here. So questions or comments?
No.
And it seems to be the only bid, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Is there a particular reason, just in case the public wants to know this?
We specify a specific pump
Okay.
because it's something that the sewer department is familiar
Okay.
with and able to work on it and has
Sure.
qualified people to work on. So
Sounds
that
good.
does narrow down the bidders.
Very good reasoning there. Okay. Any questions or comments as I asked? If none, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Trumbull Equipment Company Incorporated for amount not to exceed $46,216.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 7 is Resolution 2019 R50, resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015 R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve the proposed disposition of certain township records. Give me a second here to pull this one up. I'm sure this comes from Chris Filson over in the police department. Well, I've got a lot here. Okay, and he's seeking approval for deletion of videos from Millcreek Police Department dash cam server. He is looking for videos to be deleted between the dates of September 10th and September 24th due to reaching the end of the required retention period. So this is a standard one. I think we do this every meeting, resolution to dispose of these records. Do I hear a motion, or is there any questions or comments, first of all? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019 R-50.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 8, Resolution 2019 R51, a resolution to authorize the submission of grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development to fund the first subsequent implementation phase of the adopted Millcreek Township Early Intervention Program Plan. John, I'm going to turn this over to you, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we, last year as part of the comprehensive plan, we did complete an early intervention program plan with the state. As part of that plan, municipalities can submit subsequent applications to implement the actionable items, the implementation phases of that plan. We did submit an application back in January, requested a total of $200,000 from the state. Agreed, it's a one-to-one match for this program. At the time, the state only awarded about $70,000 to us. They had limited funds, but did provide some funding. With those funds, we are kicking off our updated inventory system for the township and also funding a zoning code update. We recently met with the administrators of that program, who informed us that with the new state fiscal year, there are more funds available for the program, and we're encouraged to reapply to basically resubmit our previous application to possibly get awarded for the remainder of those projects. The projects that were not funded were updates to our financial system, financial software system, and also developing a area plan for the Gateway to Presque Isle district. So this application is a request for $150,000 with a 50% with a one-to-one match from the township, requesting the state to fund those previously submitted projects.
Right. Okay.
Any questions? We'd be happy to.
Right. Just for clarification, so people that might be viewing this meeting here, the EIP program, a lot of people think is a bad thing. This is an example where it is a good thing. First of all, let me stress, Township is not in financial distress. This is just part of a program that's out there to help enhance what we do. They give us another set of eyes to say, hey, can you maybe you should do this a little differently. And there's financial incentives for us to do that. And that's what this program is about here. So I just want to make sure that's clarified so people don't say, oh my God, Township's in trouble. We're not, okay?
Well, and to that point, the state has actually rebranded the program. I can't recall what it's called now, Matt.
Yeah.
STMP, but I don't remember the acronym.
Yeah, they've acknowledged that there's some kind of a stigma.
Right, yeah, well, there is with the EIP.
When the program initially started, it was only for municipalities that were entering into the Act
47.
Act 47.
Yeah.
They broadened it for municipalities more proactive, which is what we're trying to do.
That's what we are here,
And
yes.
they have rebranded the program, but I can't recall what the new acronym for it is.
Right,
but,
yeah.
But you're right, John. This was us trying to be proactive as part of the comp plan.
Right, it's good stuff, okay? Just to emphasize that there. So thank you for your work on that, John.
Sure thing.
And planning department too, of course.
So as part of that, what we need is a resolution formally authorizing submission of the application and the commitment of our local match before we can submit the application. That's what the resolution before you is today, gentlemen.
Okay.
I did a quick internet search. It's now called the Strategic Management Planning Program,
SMPP?
STMP.
STAMP. That's what they're calling it.
Okay, STAMP. Okay, I'll make a note there. STMP. Cool. All these acronyms, I'll tell you, it's hard to keep up with them. Okay.
For sure.
Jim, you have any questions, comments?
No, I think it's a great thing. I like the phase one. It was very helpful, especially on the police side. They had some good commentary and good recommendations there, and I think this is a good thing to keep going.
Yeah, good. Okay, with that said, do I hear a motion on this resolution 2019 R51?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2019 R51.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
How about yes?
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, item number 9 is a paving plan amendment. And let's see here.
Gentlemen, I just want, this is a procedural item that was missed previously. In 2017, we adopted roadway management procedure, resolution 2017-15, that requires all amendments to the paving plan to be adopted by the board at a public meeting. This is a retroactive item. you'll see before you, there's a list of the east side bid package. At the bottom, you'll see additions to the Zimmerly Road paving, West Arlington and Richmond, which were added due to some unforeseen availability and flexibility in the bid package. Also, you'll see a map attached that the planning department put together to update the paving map. You'll see in green are the additions, blue were the previously approved roads, and you'll see two roads in orange. That'd be West Gore and Glen Ridge. We were awarded state funds for those roadways. We anticipate those being completed this year. Unfortunately, what do you want to say, Matt? PennDOT procedural
Yeah, we were informed by PennDOT
standards.
that they had shifted the money into the 2020 budget to pay for those roads.
Right.
So PennDOT will not be bidding those projects out for us until the spring. So this is simply an amendment
Right.
to update the paving plan to include the actual roads that we're going to pave this year and deferring those two roads to 2020.
Right, yes. So not to sound repetitive, what you're saying there, John, the West Gore project and Glenridge, I'm sorry, I want to say Edgefield. Glenridge. Those were scheduled to be done this year, folks, so I know a lot of people are rather concerned, and I think I'm being kind when I say concerned, that those streets were not paved as we had told them, and this is the reasoning why. We're not trying to point the finger, but the money was coming from the state. It had been allocated, but it's going to be done next year, so.
Yeah, it's being deferred by
We have
PennDOT
done
until
some
next
section patching over there, and it's kind of a Band-Aid. Hopefully that'll help this year, but next year we hope to see that early being done there, so. But as far as amendment to this list there, guys, I think that this year we ended up with kind of a mess, and I don't know if we need to look at this resolution, these two resolutions regarding how we pave our streets, who selects the streets, and so on and so forth. But I really think that we need to sit down and talk again and determine who is going to choose the streets, rate the streets first of all, and who's going to make the recommendation to the board. I know it became very controversial, at least in the way I looked at it earlier this year, and I don't want to visit that again next year. So I'm just going to throw that out there for the record here on our minutes that we need to talk about this again. Other than that, if there's any further comments about the amendment, that's fine. You know, the amendment to our paving list. If not, call for a motion. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the paving plan amendment.
okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
And so do I. Item number 10, sale of parcel from Erie County Repository sale for unsold properties. I'll turn this over to Mark Shaheski. You want to tell us about it?
This is one of these routine requests. There are a handful of items that are in the repository, mostly trailers, and they found somebody that's willing to buy one of them, and what they're looking for is for the taxes to be exonerated for the time when the trailer was not owned. And I don't have the total, but the total taxes for all municipalities are $52.80, and our share of that's about 16%. So it's going to be
5,200.
about about $700 would be a guess, but $700-800.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? Being none, I'll call for a motion.
If I could, just before you make your motion or not,
Okay.
let me
Silence was
let me
killing me.
interject.
The silence was killing me.
Under state law, when properties go into the repository, the county is given the discretion to sell these properties at a price it deems to be appropriate and without further public notice. It comes to the municipalities because it's also required to give us notice, and the consent of the municipality can't be unreasonably withheld. So unless you have a basis to say no, For example, if you think the property is worth a lot more than the number they're taking, and you have a large municipal lien on it that you think, is at risk because they're, undervaluing it, or the circumstances justify opposing it, those types of things would, I think you'd have the ability to say no to. If you don't really have a basis, then really, you can't unreasonably say no. So that's kind of the strictures that you're bound by, for better or worse.
I think part of the concern that the board has is we do have an issue in Millcreek with dilapidated trailers throughout the township. It's a concern that folks have. I did speak with our chief code enforcement officer about the issue, and also spoke with the county to get a list of the depository. We had about 17 of these trailers on the repository. Mr. Dixon, our chief code enforcement officer, did go out to check those locations, and actually, I believe it was 14 or 15 of those subject trailers had actually already been removed by the owners due to our enforcement efforts. So I think we are addressing that issue with the maintenance of these structures through code enforcement. It's been proactive in these kind of trailer issues. So I'm comfortable with the county's request if it gets these things moving and gets someone to take over these things. And the flip side of that, though, is we as a township need to make sure that these new owners are held accountable to meet our property maintenance requirements.
Yeah, I would think, at least from the perspective of the standards you have to follow, it's my sense, I don't know that you have a basis to say no to it, but I would agree that it would certainly, if you question this person's capability or willingness to actually do what they indicate they will do in purchasing it, then code enforcement would be the appropriate avenue.
Yeah. If I could add something, I'm not being argumentative with anybody here about this. As a former code official, I recall, and I know it's still in the property maintenance code, that when a structure gets to such a point where it is no longer viable, financially viable to do the work, then it is time for the code official to say, no, enough is enough here. There's no way you could flip this thing back around and get it back on track. So that's the way I'm looking at it. And I know you said you need something reasonable, and I'm looking at that factor, because here we have a property maintenance code that talks about this, that some of these, I'm not saying that is the case with this. I have not really viewed this property in question, but still there's that angle to look at it from. So I know this is the issue before us right now, and it will act on that one accordingly. But just wanted to state that, there are times where you have to say goodbye, and don't know if this is the case or not. So.
And I certainly think it makes sense in the future as these come up to, maybe have somebody go out and take a look at it and verify if in fact they think that, it could be rehabbed in any fashion, and then make a decision based on that.
Well, yes. Well, we see this with, the site-built structures. We had a demolition there a couple weeks ago where there's no way possible that could be fixed. And that's why that one had a date with a wrecking ball, as it should have. So, okay, beat that up enough there. I need to hear a motion on this action right here before us.
The motion to approve the county request for exoneration of taxes on 1234 Tacky Drive.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes, too. Item number 11, financial security release request for Erie Homes for Children and Adults for the Gorman Road Project. Erie EHCA is a developer. Matt Waldinger.
Thank you. Yes, this is for a residence that was built at the corner of Gorman and Vernon Drive. The residence was larger than the 5,000 square foot impervious limit, so they were required to go to Greenman Peterson for review of their stormwater management plan. We have received word from Greenman Peterson that everything was installed satisfactorily. Our inspector, Robert Donikowski, has also inspected the property. All required improvements are complete. We have a certification from Township Engineer Ann Sokol as such. So I would like to request the release of PNC Bank cash escrow check number 72017 in the amount of $9,186.70.
Okay. Questions or comments among the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial security release for Erie Homes for Children and Adults.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Next item is number 12, Stormwater Management Plan and Maintenance Agreement Request from the Erie International Airport, which is the authority is the developer on that. Matt Waldinger, back to you again.
Thank you. Yes, the authority was granted conditional approval for construction of these improvements in this land development plan. One of the conditions is that they have an approved stormwater management plan and sign the stormwater management agreement with the township. Greenman Peterson has reviewed their stormwater management plan and certified that it meets our ordinance requirements. They have signed the standard township form stating that they'll be responsible for the maintenance. That is the airport authority. So at this time, we recommend that we approve their stormwater management plan and the stormwater maintenance agreement.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the stormwater management plan and maintenance agreement request with the Erie International Airport.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Item number 13 is the August building construction report. Back to you, Matt Waldinger.
Thank you very much. In the month of August, there were a total of 2 new residences built and 5 residential remodeling projects for a total value of, total increase in value of $581,600. As well, there were a total of 22 non-commercial structures or remodels for a total increased value of just over $1.1 million. Total for the month of August, there were 29 zoning permits issued for an increase in value of $1,728,666.71. This resulted in zoning permit fees to the township of $6,050. A copy of this report will be available online later today, and a hard copy will also be available in the Planning and Development Office.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, moving on, item 14, which is communications. We'll start with you, Mark Jaheski. Do you have anything for us?
Well, you going to take this training request, you want me to take it?
That's all you.
Okay. The one thing I have is a training request for, it's actually for you and for Diane Lyons and Sean McClellan. There's been a request to attend the PSAT's Human Resources and Labor Management Institute at Cranberry Township in Butler County on September 26th. The cost is $99 per person, and there'll be a combination of township and personal vehicles involved. I'm assuming this expense was budgeted within the administration's department's budget for the year, and there is still sufficient budget remaining to cover those expenses. So I'm recommending that John Groh, Diane Lyons, and Sean McClellan be allowed to attend the PSAT's Human Resources and Labor Management Institute, and that we cover the cost of the seminar and travel.
Okay. Do I hear a motion on that? Anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve that request.
And do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, is that all you have there, Mark?
Yeah, that's all I have for today.
Okay. John, what do you have there?
Gentlemen, I'd like to make a request for your approval for myself to attend the PA American Planning Association Conference in Reading, PA from October 20th to October 22nd.
Okay.
Cost for registration is $390. I'm also requesting reimbursement for lodging only not to exceed $200.
Okay, how about vehicle? Do you need a vehicle in that?
No, I'll be taking my own vehicle, and I will not be submitting mileage.
Okay. Okay. We have did you put that in form of a motion, or?
As a request.
Okay, I'll make that in the form of a motion for John's request to attend the PPA conference. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
And so do I. I vote yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Anything else there? Okay. Okay, I have a couple things. First of all, executive sessions were on August the 29th and September the 5th, discussing legal matters with the township solicitor. And also, we're going to talk about the McDowell Homecoming Parade, which is set for, it's called A Night in the City, on September the 27th, and the parade begins at 5:30. However, the activities over there lining up and everything will probably start around 4:30, maybe even before then. So with that said, Cawhee Road will be closed to traffic there, and it's probably right at 4:30 is when that'll happen there. So anybody traveling in the area, please be patient and understand you'll have to go around a different way there. What the school district is asking for is permission to close the street and to conduct a parade, but also to open the gate at the north end of the intermediate high school complex. That has always been locked, and the only time it is ever open is in case of an emergency or in a case of the parade here. So I'm going to have this as in a form of a dual action there to close Cawhee Road for the parade and then also to allow the opening of that gate. So that's my form of a motion. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And so do I. And the Millcreek Supervisors will be participating in this, as we always do there. So we give out the best candy, I've been told. So, okay. So
I agree.
rumor has it that way. Okay, that's all I have. Jim, what do you have?
Okay, Chief Height has made up for lost time with a litany of requests
Should we have a recess
from the
first?
police department. I think we might need a brief recess before, get comfortable.
Okay.
Okay, the first request is for permission for one officer to attend the Pennsylvania State Police Intel Liaison Officer Training on November 12th through the 14th in State College. Travel by department vehicle. There is no registration or lodging fees. Estimated costs are per diem $303 and fuel $25. You want to act on these separately, or?
And what do you think there, John? You want to do them all together or separate?
There's 7 of them, so.
Oh, boy.
I'll defer to Mr. Bach.
I've referred all, with Chief Height, we've conferred.
Okay.
He gave me specifics on all of them, which
Okay.
he summarized here, and I feel they're all worthy of the request.
Okay.
So we can do all 7.
Yeah.
The second request is for 10 officers to attend street cop training course at the Blasco Library here in Erie. No overtime is needed for staffing. The registration cost for the 10 officers is $1,990 for that training. The next request is for 3 officers to attend the State Police Northwest Training Center for NIBRS training. Travel by department vehicle, no registration costs on that. The fourth request for 7 officers to attend a domestic violence and human trafficking seminar in October, sponsored by SafeNet. It's held at the Ambassador in Erie. Registration costs $525. Permission for Detective Ryan Mays to attend the International Association of Bomb Technicians training conference at the Bayfront Sheraton in Erie in October. The Northwest Emergency Response Group will be reimbursing registration costs. There are no other anticipated expenses associated with that. The registration is $340, which again will be reimbursed by the task force. The sixth request, permission for 2 detectives to attend the East Coast Gang Investigators Conference in Atlantic City, New Jersey in October. Travel by department vehicle. The Erie County District Attorney's Office will pay registration and lodging. There is additional costs of a per diem, $940, fuel and tolls, $100. And the final request is for 6 officers to attend the FBI Crisis Negotiation Training in October. Travel by department vehicle. Doesn't say where it's in Erie. No cost for the training at this time and no overtime needed for staffing. I just want to kind of expand on number 5 with the bomb technician training, as we saw recently with an incident here in Millcreek where Detective Mays was needed to be deployed to a residence where some ordinances were found, some potential issues with explosives. So we're very fortunate to have him here locally, because otherwise it could take hours for someone else to come in. It's not something that everybody's trained in. So I think this is a very worthwhile update to his resume. I'll put all 7 of those requests in the form of a motion, gentlemen.
Okay. We'll hear a second on that.
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And so do I. Is that all you have there, Jim?
That's all I have.
Okay. Mark Shaw, what do you have?
Yes, we got a request from council involved in the Red Lobster tax appeal. If you recall, the school district is the main party in that appeal and is leading the charge, so to speak. But they made a request of me to ask the board to see if the board would be willing to share in the costs of an appraiser that would have to be hired as an expert in that case. Just to give you a little bit of background, the property is currently assessed at $3.2 million. The appraiser for Red Lobster came in at $2.125 million. Some other relevant facts is it sold in 2014 for $3.3 million, and again in 2017 it was valued at $4.175 million, which was part of a larger sale of various assets. So it certainly appears to be worthwhile to challenge their appraisal, and they did get a cost estimate for the appraisal of $4,950, and suggested that it would be prorated in accordance with the share that the township would have in terms of what percentage their taxes make up the total taxes. And I think Mark ran the numbers, and it ends up being between $700 and $800 would be the township share based on that estimate. So I would recommend that the supervisors approve or authorize participating in the share of the experts' costs in proportion to their tax rates.
Okay. Okay. Questions or comments?
Should we specify what that proportion is? Is that what it was?
Our proportion is 15.59%. To do the exact math was $771.70, I think. But if you want to round it up to $775 to make it even, it's close enough.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that said, I'll need a motion, and we're going to have to have public comment period too. So do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve entering into a cost share agreement with the school district regarding this tax appeal.
Okay.
Currently not to exceed $775.
Okay. Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Now, public comment. Is there any public comment on this matter since it was not on the agenda? Okay. Being none, I'll call for a vote. Mr. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And I will too. Okay. That's all.
That's all I have.
Okay. Cheryl, you have a right to know report?
I do. For the month of August, we received 10 requests. 5 were granted, 1 was denied, and 4 are pending due to 30-day extensions needed to process those,
Okay.
for a total of 10.5 hours spent in processing at this point.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. Okay, moving over. Matt Waldinger, you have a new person sitting next to you on your right.
I do, yes.
Would you like to introduce this young man?
I absolutely would like to, yes. We're happy this week that John Sebesta, he is a professional engineer. He came on board with us in the engineering division of the Planning and Development Department. Yesterday
Okay.
was his first day.
Okay.
He chose to come back for the second. So
Okay, well, that's good. We
so
like
far.
that.
Yeah. We'd like to welcome John to the township. We're really excited
Okay.
to have him, and we're looking forward to working.
Okay, that sounds good. Would you turn the microphone over to John for a second there? John, not to belabor this, tell us a little about yourself. Where'd you come from? Where's your educational background and so on? Yeah.
Do you like long walks on the beach?
Long walks at the beach, you
Long
know,
walks at the beach.
yeah,
first-
sunsets,
first
things
and
like that, yeah, I know, yeah.
foremost. My name's John Sebesta. I grew up in Binghamton, New York. Graduated from high school in 1998 and went to Clarkson University. Graduated out of there with my bachelor's in
Okay.
civil engineering in
Okay.
'02 and moved down to Virginia. Was there for about 10 years working for a consultant, and then decided, well, my wife and I met down there, and we decided to move closer to home for
Okay.
her. She's from Lawrence Park, and so we bought a place here, not too far away from
Yeah,
the township building, and I've been working for PennDOT for the last 7 years now,
okay,
and just
Okay.
grew a little bit tired of that commute,
Okay.
and
Okay.
here I am now.
well, we're glad you're with us here now, so that makes our complement 3 engineers on staff, and that's good, you know, and we do need the engineering department, yeah, so, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay,
Glad to be here.
okay, Matt, do you have anything?
Nothing further.
Gary, anything? Okay. Citizens to be heard. Any citizens to be heard? Okay, nothing, sir? Nothing? Okay. Okay. Okay, call for a motion to adjourn at 10:07.
So moved.
Okay, we